All right. Sometimes you stumble across a topic and you think, why haven't I looked into this before?
Happens to the best of us. What's got you so intrigued?
Well, it's ham radio. I'm a little embarrassed to admit my knowledge was pretty much limited to, those old walkie-talkies.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I had a similar image in my head until I really started digging into it for this deep dive.
It's amazing. This document you sent over, it completely changed my perspective.
It's fascinating stuff, isn't it? What surprised you the most?
Honestly, it's the fact that it's still so relevant today. In our world of instant communication, who would have thought that people are still using radio waves to connect across continents?
Right. It's like this whole hidden layer of global communication that most people don't even realize exists.
Exactly. And it's not just about sending a quick text. It's about the skill, the technology, the whole process of making those connections happen.
It's almost like stepping back in time, but with a modern twist.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. For anyone who might not be familiar, what exactly is ham radio?
So ham radio, or amateur radio as it's also known, is basically using radio frequencies for communication.
Mm.
But, and this is key, it's non-commercial. It's about the love of the craft, the challenge, the community.
So it's less about making money and more about the joy of connecting with people through radio waves.
Exactly. It's about exploration, experimentation, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
I like that. But why the name amateur? Some of these setups seem incredibly sophisticated.
You're right, the skill level can be incredibly high. But the term amateur really refers to the non-commercial nature of it. It's driven by passion, not profit.
So you could have someone who's a software engineer by day building their own high-powered antenna in their backyard by night.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so fascinating. It attracts people from all walks of life, all united by this shared interest in radio.
That's really cool. So the document mentions a few reasons why people get into ham radio. What would you say are some of the biggest draws?
Well, for some, it's the thrill of long-distance communication, being able to talk to someone on the other side of the world using nothing but radio waves.
Yeah, the global reach is what really blew me away. What motivates these DXers, as they're called? What makes them spend hours chasing distant signals?
I think it's the challenge, the detective work of it all. They're not just chatting about the weather. They're studying propagation patterns, tracking solar flares, anything that affects how far those radio waves can travel.
It sounds like a combination of technical skill and, like you said, a bit of detective work.
Absolutely. And then there's the satisfaction of actually making that connection, hearing a voice from a country you might never get to visit.
I can only imagine. I read about a ham radio operator who bounced a signal off the moon to contact someone in Europe.
That's incredible. See, that's the thing about ham radio. There's so much diversity within the hobby itself.
So it's not just about long-distance communication.
Not at all. Some operators, they're perfectly happy connecting with people right in their own neighborhood, using VHF and UHF frequencies.
So like a more powerful walkie-talkie network.
Kind of, but with a lot more range and capabilities. The document even mentioned these things called repeaters.
Repeaters!
Yeah, imagine them as signal boosters, strategically placed on towers or mountains to extend the reach of local communications.
Ah, so you could chat with someone miles away, even with a handheld radio.
Exactly. It's like creating this network of radio enthusiasts all across a city or region. But let's talk tech for a minute. If someone wants to get started with ham radio, what kind of equipment are we talking about?
Yeah, it does seem like you'd need a mini radio station in your house.
Well, you do need some specialized gear, but it's not as daunting as it sounds. The heart of any setup is the receiver. That's your window into the world of radio waves.
So with the receiver, you can listen in on all the chatter, all the signals zipping around out there. But what if you want to actually join the conversation?
Right, if you want to transmit, to actually talk back, that's where the transceiver comes in.
So it's a two-way radio, basically.
Exactly. It lets you both send and receive. But of course, sending out those signals, it comes with a bit more responsibility.
Yeah, I imagine there are rules about who can transmit and on what frequencies. Otherwise, it would be total chaos, right?
Exactly. That's why in most countries, you actually need a license to operate a transceiver.
A license, huh? That makes sense. So it's not just as easy as buying a radio and flipping the on switch.
Not quite.
Oh.
But honestly, getting a license, it's not as intimidating as it might seem. It's really about making sure that operators understand the technical aspects, the regulations, and how to use the airwaves safely and responsibly.
So it's about keeping things organized and preventing interference.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about the receiver, the
Right.
transceiver, but we can't forget about the antenna.
Right. The antenna, that's what actually sends your signal out into the world or plucks those distant signals out of the air. What's the deal with those? They seem pretty crucial.
Absolutely. The antenna is essential, and there's a surprising amount of variety in antenna types and designs.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, you've got your simple wire antennas, which can be surprisingly effective. Then there are the Yagi antennas. Those are the directional ones that look kind of like old school TV aerials.
Okay, I can picture those.
And then you get into even more complex designs for specific purposes, like long-distance communication or working with different frequencies.
It's amazing to think that this one piece of equipment, the antenna, can make such a huge difference in how far and how clearly you can communicate.
It really is. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The document explains how ham radio isn't just about voice communication these days.
Really? I was kind of imagining it as mostly people chatting back and forth. What else is there?
Well, a lot of operators now, they're integrating computers and data into their setups.
Now you're speaking my language. Computers and data. How does that work with ham radio?
Well, for one thing, there are digital modes of communication that ham radio operators use.
Digital modes.
Yeah, these digital modes allow operators to send text messages, even images and GPS coordinates over radio waves.
Wow. So instead of talking, you're basically texting and sending pictures through the airwaves.
In a way, yes. And it's not just a novelty either. It can be incredibly useful, especially in emergencies.
Emergencies. How
Yeah.
so?
Well, imagine a situation where phone lines are down, the internet is out, but you can still transmit radio signals.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Being able to send a text message or GPS coordinates via radio, it can be a real lifeline. In fact, the document mentioned a specific digital mode called D-Star, which is fascinating.
P-Star. What's special about that one?
Well, D-Star actually uses the internet to relay signals.
So you can be in the middle of nowhere, no cell service, but as long as you can get a radio signal out, you can connect to this D-Star network and send messages around the world.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing, right? It's like blending this traditional technology of radio with the global reach of the internet.
That's wild. Okay, so digital modes are one way that computers are changing things. What else?
Well, some ham radio operators, they're using their equipment and their technical know-how for scientific exploration, believe it or not.
Scientific exploration. That's not what I would have expected. What are they doing exactly?
Well, they're collecting data on things like atmospheric conditions, solar activity, even the Earth's ionosphere, using their radio equipment. They're like citizen scientists contributing to our understanding of the planet.
That's so cool. It seems like there's this whole other dimension to ham radio that goes way beyond just chatting with people. It's like a blend of science, technology, and community all rolled into one.
You got it. And speaking of community, we can't forget the builders. The document mentioned how many ham radio enthusiasts are really passionate about building their own equipment from scratch.
Oh, right. I read about that. It seems like that takes a lot of dedication and skill.
It definitely does. For a lot of these folks, it's about really understanding every component, every circuit, every single wire that goes into making those radio waves work. There's a real sense of pride in building something yourself and then seeing it actually function.
I can see that. It's that whole maker spirit, right? Taking something from an idea in your head to a physical object that you created with your own two hands.
Exactly. And it speaks to the level of passion and ingenuity within the ham radio community. But it also brings up an interesting question, don't you think?
Yeah, what's that?
Well, in an age where we have smartphones, the internet, instant communication literally at our fingertips, why would anyone bother with ham radio? It seems almost archaic, doesn't it?
It's a fair question. With all our fancy gadgets, why bother with radio waves and antennas? What's the appeal of ham radio in 2024?
It's funny, right? That's the question that kept coming back to me as I was researching this. And, I think it boils down to this. Ham radio, it offers something that you just can't get from an app or a device. It's a connection that's earned, not given.
Earned, not given. I like that. How so?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
With your smartphone, communication is easy. You press a button, you send a message, it just happens.
True. It's all very instant.
Exactly. But with ham radio, you're not just pressing a button. You're actively participating in the process of communication itself.
You're really getting your hands dirty, so to speak.
Exactly. You're understanding the science behind it. You're mastering the technology. You're using your skills to actually bridge those distances. And that, I think, creates a different kind of connection.
It's like the difference between, I don't know, sending a quick text versus sitting down and writing a letter by hand.
Perfect analogy. They both communicate a message, but that handwritten letter, it just means more, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because you put thought and effort into it.
Absolutely. There's a certain intentionality to it.
And that intentionality, it carries over to the community as well.
Ah, yes. The community aspect. The document highlighted that, how important that is in the world of ham radio.
It's a huge part of it. These ham radio operators, they're part of this global network of people who share this passion for this kind of old school but still amazing form of communication.
Right. So it's not just about the technology. It's about the people you connect with along the way.
Exactly. They're learning from each other. They're helping each other out. They even have contests and challenges to see who can make the most impressive contacts. It's a really vibrant community.
That's so interesting. It reminds me a bit of the early days of the internet, back when it was all about exploration and figuring things out together.
You're right. There's a real sense of discovery and camaraderie there. But with ham radio, there's also this element of real-world skill and application that I think is really unique.
Right. And let's not forget the role ham radio plays in emergencies. When everything else fails, it's often these operators who are able to step up and provide those crucial communication links.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of it, too. When hurricanes hit, earthquakes strike, any disaster where communication networks are down, ham radio operators are often the ones who are able to get messages through.
It's incredible, really. They can set up these independent communication systems, sometimes with very basic equipment, and become a lifeline for people in need.
It's a testament to their ingenuity and their dedication to using this technology for good.
Well said. It sounds like ham radio is so much more than just a hobby. It's a community, a skill set, a lifeline even. It's a way to connect with the world that's both timeless and surprisingly relevant, even in our hyper-connected age.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about ingenuity. It's about resilience. It's about the simple but powerful act of using radio waves to connect with someone somewhere out there.
Well, a huge thank you to you for guiding us through this fascinating world of ham radio. I have to admit, I started this deep dive with a lot of preconceived notions, but you've completely changed my perspective.
It's been a pleasure sharing what I've learned.
And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you've gained a newfound appreciation for the magic of radio waves and the incredible community that keeps those signals strong. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, we'll catch you on the airwaves.